This is the type of photography I have always shied away from because I didn't really get it, and it's a huge departure from my already established style. Arguably, this is the most popular genre of photography, and in my opinion, it's one of the hardest ones to execute well. What type of photography are we talking about? Street photography. If you've ever wondered what it would be like to start photographing in a whole new environment and totally switch up your process and genre of photography, then keep watching for my first impressions on shooting street. So, if you saw my last video, I was in Sydney for work and I decided to try my hand at some street photography, considering I was in like a bigger, more bustling city. I pretty much shot all of that stuff on my Olympus Pen FT, which maybe wasn't the best camera choice, but I'm still trying to work that out. I was quite happy with some of the shots that I got, and I found it really exciting being in a big city and kind of like hunting around for compositions. And I kind of got into the groove of it and really got bit by the street photography bug. Pair this with watching an epic amount of walkie talkies on Paulie B's channel and being a lover of actually a lot of street photography channels like Faisal Westcott and reading things like Framelines magazine. I was really primed for trying this genre. It's just not something that had really come to mind. The only issue is I live in more of a beach kind of location. It still is busy and there's somewhat parts of it that are sort of like a city, but not really. The other day, I had to finish off a roll of film and I found myself in Surfers Paradise, which is kind of a good location to shoot some street photography. Like there's a lot going on there, but there wasn't quite enough. And I wasn't seeing the things that I was seeing when I was in Sydney, which is a much bigger city. So inevitably, I ended up taking like Lucy Lumen esque photos, which was kind of frustrating me because I really wanted to lean into the whole street photography thing. So, speaking of my style, if you're new to the channel, you might not be aware of how I normally shoot, and it's probably worth mentioning because the street shots that I got aren't like, amazing. Like I'm no Faisal, I'm no Meyerowitz over here because it's my first time kind of trying it. So I'm just sharing the process with you. But what I normally shoot is no people at all, very like minimal scenes. I love color and playing with like angles and just keeping things minimal and like bright, very saturated. I look for a lot of red in my photography, and composition and color are like the most important things to me. I like things to look kind of abstract as well. And I pretty much only really shoot film. I mix in digital occasionally, but normally I feel pretty confident shooting that style on film with a fairly good hit rate because nothing is moving and I can make it look exactly how I want it to. I happen to be in Brisbane, which is about an hour away from me, and that is a proper city environment. I was doing a job for a deli that I create content for, and I decided to use the rest of the day that I was in Brisbane to shoot some street photography, give it another go, and really like make the most of that city trip. So I chose to shoot the Nikon D7100, which is obviously a digital camera. We've been using this a lot lately on jobs. If we have to shoot digital because there's a higher turnaround, we actually used it on the deli job. And I've been really loving it. I think it's great. I like the output, I like the user experience. So I thought, why not try it for street? I am a diehard film lover, but I think film and street photography is kind of like, it doesn't make sense. I mean, I would still do it, but I think in the beginning, when you're like really sort of just getting used to it, I think you really want to be able to even see when you're out like shooting, what you're getting to get a little bit of encouragement. And there's just a lot of trial and error and there's a lot of dud shots. I would assume it's that way even if you've been doing, the genre for a really long time. It's just kind of the nature of the beast. Whereas what I normally do, like I said, I can control it. So it makes sense to shoot on film. So I opted for digital for those reasons. And I'm glad that I did because A, I got to experiment more and build my confidence up with just actually being out on the street shooting. And B, I got to see the photos as soon as I came home. The downside was like they looked good, but like we did edit them. And I feel like that's not something I enjoy doing, which is why I shoot film. But it's a small price to pay for not blowing through like 2 rolls of film and ending up with like two good photos or something. So if you've seen my video on my Nikon camera collection, you'll know that I have a lot of Nikon cameras and lenses. So for this, I opted to use the 35mm lens, which on a crop sensor works out to be 50mm, which is a pretty ordinary and comfortable focal length for me. And I thought that was a good place to kind of start. I have a few thoughts on focal length to kind of like match my style, but we'll touch on that later on in the video. So as far as settings go, I decided to just keep it really simple because that's another reason why I like shooting film and I really love shooting on auto. So I locked off the ISO at 800, just as if I was shooting, an 800 ISO roll of film. And then for the shutter speed, I had it at 1/500th of a second, just because that's going to like freeze action. And then I let the camera work out the aperture for me. I'm a big fan of these like prosumery cameras because they have mode dials. And when I shoot my style, I want everything to be really like flat and in focus. So I use landscape mode because that kind of just achieves that and it's just easier. But I think for street photography, the sports mode would be really good because you got a lot of action, a lot of people moving around. So I might try that next time and share the results with you guys. Anyway, let's move on from everybody's favorite topic, the camera, and talk about the photos because that's what's important. In my experience with photography, I am no stranger to kind of getting told off for like being on someone's lawn or like photographing in like a public place, but I don't normally have anyone in my photos. So it kind of changes things because it's like, oh, you're annoyed that I'm taking a photo of like, I don't know, the outside of your house or like a chair or something. It just doesn't really feel like I'm doing anything that wrong. Whereas when you're taking photos of people without their consent, it gets a bit icky and there's just all these things that come up. And I did feel nervous for sure. And I know this is a huge thing for a lot of people that already shoot street or want to shoot street. So I definitely felt that. But there were some ways that I found to kind of like sneak around it a little bit. I think obviously the busier the location, the better. And I found that crossings, whilst I know that's nothing new, were really good because you could just stand behind like a bunch of people. And then as we were crossing, I was like taking a lot of photos then because I was nice and close to the people. And something that I found was I was shooting the back of people a lot, which I actually like doing, but it also made me feel less nervous because they couldn't see that I was taking a photo. So there was like less of a chance of an altercation. But I really like that faceless look in photographs when you can't see. I think it gives a little bit of mystery. And I also found that I was really drawn to people's footwear. Seemed to be a bit of a theme for me. Not sure if that's just because I was trying to avoid having a fight with someone, but I really liked kind of spotting different styles on the street. And some of the pictures that I got reminded me of old kind of Vice magazines, like the do's and don'ts or like street style trend reports that they would do from like different parts of the world. So yeah, I really liked it from a fashion point of view, and I really brought that interest of mine into street photography. When I got home and looked at all of the photos, there was definitely some that I really liked, but a lot of them were either just total duds or like quite boring, or maybe they would have been good if certain things weren't in the frame, which is probably my biggest struggle because I feel like I know what I want in the frame. But with street photography, you can't control signs that are in the background that kind of like ruin things or make it look like it's 2023, which kind of isn't really what I want. Then there's also, not being able to control the environment, but also like losing the moment, which is something I was seeing a lot and was really killing me. But it was also motivating me to like go find another moment or think like, oh my God, what about like maybe there's other moments that I'm missing, and kind of be scurrying around the city, like hunting, looking for them. And I really liked that. I found it like a huge adrenaline rush, and I'm very like, not competitive. I'm like competitive with myself, and I'm very I love to be motivated by something like that. Like I want to find something cool, kind of like when you're traveling and you're looking for, restaurants and you want to eat at the best place. I always get that feeling where I'm like, "Oh, like is it this place? Is it this place?" And you want to like find some cool alleyway that like no one's found before. So it really ignited all of those kind of like travel-y kind of feelings in me, which isn't something that I've been able to do recently. So I really liked that aspect of it and how different that is to kind of almost like the shooting fish in a barrel way that I feel about my ordinary style, because it is really easy to me, and because it's just sitting there waiting to be photographed, I can go out and kind of get it whenever I want, if that makes sense. Whereas with this, it felt more special and like you really had to like go and look for it and be out there on the street like hunting for these moments or be in the right place at the right time, and that was a real thrill. I feel like I did bring some of my signature style. Can I say that? Can you say that about yourself? Um, into what I shot in Brisbane. And that was like looking for color. So there's like one particular image of a lady, it's the back of her, and I just liked like her pink shirt with the blonde hair. And then there was another one of like a stop sign that was red. And that's like, those are sort of things that I would look for normally. So I tried to bring that and like get it to carry over into the new genre that I was trying. I decided not to put any kind of constraints or rules on myself with the genre, because that's another big thing and something that's actually put me off trying it, which is silly. But people always say that, it's not street photography unless there's a person in it. And that's probably a topic for another video. But I don't agree with that. And I took some photos of things through like windows or in shops and stuff like that. And I believe that's got like a street or like human element to it. So I think that it works nicely with the other photos that I took. And I'm not going to like not take it because it's like, that's not street photography. Like, I just think that's bullshit. But I still really liked those photos as well. And it was cool to be doing both. When it comes to street photography, there's just so much to learn and so many decisions and things that you need to kind of like get your head around. And I think who better to learn from than the legend Andre Wagner. His course, Street and Documentary Photography, The Ongoing Moment, gives insight into his process on the streets and takes you right through to the developing and reviewing stage as well. Seeing him in action and hearing his approach to creating intimacy in the work made me excited to get out there and keep searching for those little moments on the street. This Skillshare course appealed to me because it was short and sweet at 31 minutes in total, and I think that's a really achievable length for people who are really busy. This course felt like the perfect accompaniment to my newfound hobby of street photography. And if you are new to the genre and wanting to try it out, or you're just a really big fan of Andre Wagner, I would highly recommend it. Not a street shooter? Don't stress. Skillshare has a wide variety of courses on filmmaking, graphic design, illustration, entrepreneurship, videography, pretty much anything you can think of. So why not dive into Skillshare's online learning community with thousands of online classes and members who come together to find inspiration and take the next step in their creative journey. Keen to check it out and see what's on there for you? The first 500 people to use my link will get access to one of Skillshare's best offers. 30 days free and 40% off your first year of a Skillshare membership. So click the link below and try Andre Wagner's course and thousands of others for free today and start exploring your creativity. Big thanks to Skillshare for powering today's episode. In terms of focal length, I think that's one of the kind of hardest decisions because it's going to obviously drastically change the way your street photography looks and also the approach that like you want to have like physically with the environment. So I was like totally comfortable with like the 50mm equivalent, but I found it was a little bit like boring, I guess. And I think I want to go a longer focal length because I do like tight crops. So I'm thinking maybe trying 90mm or maybe going like something crazy like 125 and just like getting out there and seeing what I can get with a focal length like that. I think that matches my style nicely, and because I don't normally want a lot in the frame and that's kind of how I view things, I'm assuming it'll be the same with street photography. But then I'm nervous to do that because I'm worried that there'll be a really great scene where, people are dispersed in the scene really well and I want to capture all of that, or there'll be something above them that I want to use and like utilize the backdrop of the city because that's kind of what makes it street photography, I guess. But I just don't know. I'm still kind of working it out. So I'm just going to try different ones and see how I go. We did recently purchase this Nikon AIS 28mm lens after watching Pushing Films episode on the 28mm focal length, which was a banger video. And as somebody who normally always opts for a longer focal length, I was totally sold after seeing that and hearing how Hashem talked about, placing someone, in the frame and then having all of that kind of like depth behind them. I just think it gave a lot of like context. And we have used this lens for work, and I was really in love with the photos. I think they were great for that environment that we shot in, and I can definitely see the pros to shooting with 28mm. So on the total like flip side, that's something I'd also like to try. I just think that I would have to get quite close to the subject to like get that look. And that's quite sort of brazen Trevor Wisecup territory, like getting right in someone's face. Hey, Trevor. Something very exciting happened in my life recently. I made 2 photography friends, which feels really nice. It's very hard to make adult friends, but these are good ones. And I would love to bring other people onto the channel. And this friend that I have, he really likes street photography and he likes rangefinders. So he is maybe going to do like an episode with me where he's shooting his Canon rangefinder. I'll shoot an SLR. Maybe we'll do like half a roll each and then like we'll swap, and it can be like an SLR versus rangefinder, talk about our experiences and kind of like what we're gravitating towards on the channel, and just like involve other people. Kind of like when I did my video with Matt Murray a while back, if you haven't seen that one. So yeah, that's exciting. And I think maybe doing street photography with someone else makes it easier. I don't know, maybe it doesn't. To be honest, when I was shooting the D7100, I had someone filming me, obviously, to get B-roll most of the time. And that's kind of like the worst way to do it. You're trying to be discreet. You've already got a pretty big camera in your hand and you're taking photos of people without the permission, and then someone's videoing you doing it. It's like, oh my God. It's just, but it had to be done. So I think it would be cool to go out and shoot street with no videoing. I did go off on my own for a little bit with this when we weren't videoing, and I feel like that's when I got my better shots, to be honest. But I always feel like that because it can be very hard to be on camera and do something. But look out for the video with myself and Kaylin shooting together. I think that'll be really interesting, and it's cool to see generally when you photograph with other people, like what they go for. And he's very different to me. I know when I shot with Matt, we kind of went for the same things. So that will be an interesting experiment. And it's fun to like connect with people in your like actual local photography community too. So this whole street photography thing has kind of come about really organically for me. And I know I'm like super late to the party now, but since being in Sydney, I have been thinking about it a lot and wanting to do it more. So I'd appreciate any advice people have, whether it's about gear or focal length or like how to approach the genre or composition or like other resources or videos or channels that you love in the genre of street photography, because it is like wildly popular. Comment below and let me know, or hit me up on Instagram, DM me and let me know of something that I should check out. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one.